Hello, and welcome to another episode of Finding Mr. Height, the podcast. I'm your host, Allie Jackson, and I'm bringing you my positive and practical approach to dating, relationships, and a lot else about life from my own lived life experience. I am so excited to announce what I'm about to announce. We are doing a 5-year anniversary party for the pod. I can't believe it has been almost 5 years. In February, it will be, of doing this podcast. I am so grateful to each and every one of you listening, whether you've been listening the whole time or for a short amount of time. I thank you. And I want to throw a party in celebration of you. So on Saturday, February 28th in New York City, we are doing a party at the Folly, NYC. It's on Houston Street on the corner of West Broadway. I've been there a few times. I really like them there. I'm excited for them to host us. Doors are going to open to public pod listeners at 8 p.m. Patrons have a little bit of an earlier entrance. So if you're a patron, go ahead and listen to the Patreon for more details on that. Entry is completely free. All you have to do is RSVP, as I need to get a head count for the bar to try to figure out how many people to expect. So there is a link in the show notes. I've also posted it to my Instagram story. You can also get to it directly if you go to tinyurl.com/FMH5years, the number 5, FMH5 YEARS. tinyurl.com/FMH5years, just to say it again. You can RSVP there. Again, it is free. I just need your name and email so that I can have that at the door. And there's going to be a bar tab that is first come, first serve for the patrons for sure. And I'm going to add a little bit more to it for the public pod entry as well, because I really want to say thank you. So you can bring friends, you can bring family, partners, whomever. The person that RSVPs, though, like the listener, is the one who gets to order off the bar tab. But your friends and family can still enter for free. Everything is free, cash bar, and bar tab first come, first serve with appetizer plates too, as long as they last. I just want to say thank you. And I'm so excited to do that with you in person in New York City, Saturday, February 28th. That is my major announcement. Today on the pod, we have a listener story time, which means if you are watching this on YouTube, when we get to the listener story time part, that person is anonymous. Her name is Allison. Listener story times are generally anonymous. So you're not going to see her face, but you will see me interviewing her, talking to her. I still wanted to be able to put this up on YouTube, and I looked at a couple other podcasts that do this. I don't have a massive editing budget, so we did what we could, but wanted to call that out for you. I was so excited to receive Allison's Storytime submission because I think I talk a lot about how there are no rules in dating and relationships, like how you get to make your own rules with the person that you're dating. And no story exemplifies that more than Allison's. She talks about being a late bloomer and entering her first long relationship in her late 30s and kind of what that felt like. And then more like how that relationship evolved on a timeline that is truly their own, and how they co-created that timeline together and pushed against each of their own expectations and assumptions on what that timeline should look like together. And they didn't have originally the same vision of that. And I think that's what makes this story really powerful and really important. And I think really relatable. That it wasn't just two people who were immediately on the same page on what their relationship timeline should look like and what their relationship structure should look like. It was two people who cared enough about working on their relationship to find compromise and to come together and have really hard conversations and confront their own assumptions about what they thought for whatever reason it should, quote unquote, look like, and come out the other side extremely strong and really rooted in what their relationship is being right for them. And ultimately, what that means is that they are engaged and they don't live together and they don't have plans to live together in the near future. And that isn't something that they, like I said, that they were initially aligned on, and now is something that works so well for both of them. And I just love that. I love it. And in talking to Allison, I think you're going to love it too. She is really warm and open and introspective and self-aware. The way that she has given herself grace to change her mind, I think, is really, really impressive, while also sticking to the things that are super important to her. Like, all of these things are true in this story, and I'm so excited for you to hear it. On my end, I don't have any major updates to share. Skyline and I are doing our January surprise date this upcoming weekend. It's also going to be a birthday celebration for him, so I've planned something a little bit bigger than a normal surprise date. Super excited about it. He can hear me talking right now, so I'm not going to say what it is, but I will certainly update you afterwards. And I've just been doing a lot of work on setting myself up for the new year and that sort of foundational success that I've been talking about and wanting to do. If you want to hear about that in more depth, I've been talking about it a lot on the Patreon. That's kind of where I'm keeping myself accountable to all of these sort of milestones and things that I'm doing along the way. And I'm also going to check in on it here as well. But if you want to hear kind of the in the weeds progress on all of that, maybe you're going through a foundational journey yourself or a journey of accountability for yourself, we're doing that all over at the Patreon. So that's at patreon.com/finding Mr. Height. And of course, over there, we also have bonus episodes every week. In the $10 tier, they get 2 bonus episodes a week. We do lives every month where I chat with the patrons. And like I said, they are going to get into the anniversary party early. We're going to have some giveaways, more opportunity to order on the bar tab, all that good stuff. So if you're interested, would love to see you over on the Patreon. And without further ado, let's get to Allison. And we are back with Allison. Hi, Allison. Welcome to Finding Mr. Height, the podcast.
Hi, Allie. So good to be here.
So excited that you're here. Thank you for submitting your Storytime idea. I really feel like this is going to resonate with so many people. So just firstly, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Excited to share and hope it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, and as the listeners know, our listener story times are anonymous, first name only, and it's your real life experience, hoping that, maybe somebody can relate to it or can help them through something in the future. But of course, it's just what you have gone through and how you perceive it. So before we get into, why you're here, the relationship itself, et cetera, can you tell everyone just a little bit about you and what your dating life looked like before this relationship we're going to talk about?
Yeah. So I moved to DC after college and have lived here ever since. And I would say that post-college was really when I started dating. I always thought of myself as kind of a late bloomer. I didn't really have a significant relationship until post-college. And so most of my relationships, with the exception of 1 or 2 who I met in real life, but with the majority of them have all been like from online dating. And I would say I did it for pretty much my entire adult life after graduating from college. So I feel like I became like the person that convinced other people to do online dating, and also the person that was like the entertainment for everyone with the online dating story. So it's definitely been a long journey, and mostly with the online dating space. Though, like I said, I did meet a few people through things like friends or like bocce league, but like mostly online.
And I think that's so, first of all, like we're similar age. I think it's very relatable to kind of like be almost on the pioneering edge of online dating. Like I assume you were dating before it was dating apps, when it was actually online. Like we were like on our computers.
Exactly. Like okcupid.com. Yeah. Yes. Before OkCupid became like the more trashy one. And yes, before, all those days. Yeah, totally.
And what you mentioned, you kind of considered yourself a late bloomer. I think a lot of listeners out there, though, myself included, would consider to themselves to have not had like a super significant relationship until after college, until being like, I don't know, let's say a real adult.
Yeah, exactly.
What did that experience feel like for you as you kind of moved through your 20s, your 30s, and, kind of continued in that vein?
I was very insecure about dating in high school and college because I just didn't really have any experience with relationships. I wasn't the girl that like, I feel like I had a lot of unrequited loves in high school and college, and tended to not have a lot of guy friends. So like that didn't really help either. So I felt like after graduating, it was kind of like a new frontier. But what I liked about the apps is that I knew that anybody that was on there and I was meeting was on there for the purpose of dating. That was really helpful for me because I feel like I had a lot of the like, do they, don't they like me back thing in high school and college. And I was like always too afraid to actually just ask. And so I had a lot of relationships in my head that didn't really pan out. So I think that actually really helped me, that I knew that at least if people agreed to meet me in person, like it was for the purposes of dating and not just like we're friends and like, what is this type of thing.
I think that's a really underrated aspect of dating apps that I don't think gets enough play. People don't talk about that enough.
It's so true. Yeah. I mean, at least there's that, right? I mean, they're in it for hopefully a quasi similar reason, which is like they're trying to date, whether or not they should be, or whether or not they're actually available emotionally or relationship wise is another story. But technically that is the understood norm.
Yeah, and when you guys go to the place that you decided to meet, both of you know it's a date.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yes.
Yes. You know, I had a lot of shorter relationships. And by shorter, I mean like 3 to 6 months. I feel like I started having relationships that were like 6 to 8 months, to the point where I kind of started joking with my friends that if I ever make it to a year with a boyfriend, like I'll know that's it. And we're probably going to get married, because like a year felt so long and just unfathomable. Like I always kind of figured out what was wrong in the relationship around like the 6-month mark. Like that was kind of the tipping point where I'd be like, oh, it's not going to work out for like X, Y, or Z reason. And usually, with the exception of like one relationship where I was kind of blindsided and also kind of, you know, made it hard for me to trust my own instincts, I was usually the one who broke up with the guy. So usually I was the one who figured it out, knew that it wasn't going to work, and ended things. And then I guess like the one who got away for a long time was one that broke up with me kind of out of nowhere. And that definitely shook my confidence for a while. But I feel very lucky that I did get some closure later down the line and got a lot of that sorted out. But for a couple of years there, it really threw me, because I always prided myself on really being able to be a really intuitive person and be able to tell how people were feeling and be able to tell, you know, how to read people. And so that one really was hard for me. But with that exception, like most other relationships, I'm the one that broke up with them. So it's kind of always just like, when's Allison going to figure out like what's wrong with this one, is like the joke of like, well, what's it going to be? What do you think's the thing going to be that's not going to make it work? And there was always something.
Was there a pattern there of like what that thing was? Like, were these, I guess what I mean is, were these things actual things? Or, because I know for me, in my past, I would find things sometimes that weren't actual things.
Yeah.
As a protective measure.
They were mostly actual things. I'd say it ranges from just not being in the same headspace to be in a committed relationship to actual problems. Like it ranged, but I generally think that they were all real. I don't think that any of them were. And then, you know, as you date more and as you get older, it turns into like, hey, you're a great person, you're just not for me, right? There's not really a real like, oh no, this is the thing. It's just like, it's just not clicking in a way that makes me feel like this is going to go somewhere. And like, those are the best and worst, right? Because you're like, there's nothing wrong with them. They're so great. Like, I wish I had someone to set you up with, but like, just not for me.
And I think it actually makes sense when you think about it that way, that you did have so many relationships that were in that 6 to 8 month range, because that I feel like is when, for a lot of people, you're starting to think, okay, could I see forever with this person? Assuming forever is what you're looking for.
Right.
As you were kind of going through this, what were your friends up to? Like, as you looked around at your peers, where were they at with their relationships?
So I actually had a really rough time in like 30, 31, because like all of my close friends got engaged or got married. And I thought that was going to be the really hard thing. And then I realized, haha, that's not the hard thing. It's when they start having kids. But that was, 30-year-old me.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. So, you know, my sister, who also lives in the area, got engaged around the same time as my friends. My roommates, I had been living with roommates. I did not want to live by myself, which is funny considering what we're going to talk about in a minute. But I really didn't want to live alone. So I still had roommates who were my friends till I was 30, because I did not want to live alone. And then I had 2 other roommates, and then they both got engaged within like 2 months of each other. And I was like, all right, this is it. Like, this is my forcing function. I've got to live by myself now. I have to grow up and live by myself. So 30 was also the year that I went into therapy, because I was like, wow, I am everyone, the train is leaving the station for everyone but me, it felt like. And I had no real prospects at the time. And I was getting ready to live on my own for the first time. And that was really scary to me because I was I think you'll probably relate to this. Like I refer to myself as like an activities person, like an after
Yeah.
school activities person. Like I always outside of work wanted things to do, people to see, social life on the weekends. Like I would rather be with people than be by myself, even if it was something I didn't want to do or with people that I didn't even really like that much, because I would rather be with people than be alone by myself. And that was something I had to really work on
Yep.
myself and did work on, maybe to the opposite extreme too much. But yeah, so, and then I do have a couple of friends, core friends, thank goodness, who actually I've known since high school, who have been my like, you know, single and will travel friends. And so I've been very lucky. I still travel with them, but like through our 20s and 30s, like everyone else was getting married, having kids. And we were like, what country are we going to this year?
Love
So
it.
I definitely had that group, which has been amazing. But it was definitely the minority. Most people were getting married and having kids by like early mid 30s.
I mean, that's the reason that I started my Finding Mr. Right girls trips, right? Because
Yeah.
like I am lucky that I have friends who are in relationships married with kids that do still want to travel, but I think it's super unusual.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very unusual. So we talked about how the dating pool kind of shifts
Yeah.
into, everyone's single, like you're in your 20s, you're in your early 30s, then people start to pair off. At some point though, it starts to circle back around and now the dating pool has people who are divorced in it.
Yep.
So when you were in your 30s and kind of starting to encounter that, did you have any preconceived notions about dating somebody who was divorced?
Yeah. So the guy that kind of I referred to earlier, who was the one who broke up with me, actually got married and divorced in his 20s. So when
Oh,
we were
wow.
dating in our late 20s, he had already been divorced. And so that was my first, I mean, in my 20s, I never thought I would date someone who was divorced, let alone like if they had been engaged before, that was a red flag, let alone like married and divorced by their late 20s. But he was I remember it being kind of like a weird thing thinking about like, oh, so if we get married, you've already done that. Like,
Yeah.
that was definitely like a weird feeling for me at that stage of life. But as I got older, it was more like, oh, you're divorced, but you don't have kids. Perfect.
Excellent. Yeah.
Amazing. That is my like, that's the ideal here. And I did go out on some dates with guys who had kids, but they didn't go anywhere. So I went on a couple dates with a few guys who had a kid or two, but never anything serious until I met my partner now. So that was a first for me.
When you were in that stage, did you know what you wanted for yourself in from a family planning lens?
No, I always knew that I always growing up pictured myself having kids, but I also pictured myself getting married at like 26 to 28
Sure.
and like, having traveling the world with my husband, doing a lot of things, maybe having kids around like early 30s, mid 30s. That sounded good to me. But like none of that was coming true. There was no timeline that matched with what I was hoping for in my brain that I probably had from like when I was 5. Yeah, I knew that if I found the right person, and there were some people who I dated who also wanted kids, and I knew that I could see it if I
Yeah.
had been with those people where I would have been like, oh yes, let's get married and have kids. And like I was like, yes, I want to have kids with this person. But I was never felt strongly enough where if I didn't meet someone where I would like I'd have a kid on my own. Like
Right.
that was never a thing for me. I have really close friends who have done it. I have all the respect in the world for them. I did not want to do that. So it was really more about like, if I can't even find the right person, like I can't even think about the kid part. So it was kind of like cart before the horse, not even going to go there because I can't even find someone to date for more than a year. So like the kid thing, it just felt so far out of the realm of like consideration. Like why even bother worrying about that when I couldn't find a guy. So
I fully get that. It's not something that I ever like started considering seriously until like more recently. So fast forward to your current partner now. How
yeah,
did you meet?
we met on Bumble, which is my least favorite, sorry, Bumble, of all the apps because I
Oh.
felt like it was like a lazy thing because
Mhm.
the girls have to make the first move. I don't know if that's still true, but it was at the time.
Less true
Um,
now. That's still the overall structure. It's less true now, though.
okay. So I always found that one to be like the lazy one where guys just went on for an ego trip because they just like swipe right on everyone to see how many women would like swipe right on them and not that they were actually ever interested in them. So I hated Bumble. But there was a feature at the time that was very short lived that me and my friends who were online dating found hysterical, which was this online, it was like a random GIF generator where it would just like have like this button that said say hi and you would just press it and it would send a random GIF. You didn't even know what it was until it sent.
I remember that. It
Yeah.
was so short lived. It was a really bad idea.
It, I loved it. I thought it was hysterical, especially because some of the ones that they sent were so crazy that you're like, how is this even in the mix?
That's why it was a bad idea. It
Yeah.
was hilarious. But
Yeah.
like in terms of like creating real connection, perhaps with you as an exception,
Yeah.
if that's where the story's going, I
Yeah.
remember being like, what the fuck is this?
But most guys didn't know that it was random. So they thought you were just sending a GIF that was like a cool thing that you wanted to send.
Yep.
And I guess lucky for me, the GIF that got randomly sent to my now partner was the office of just Pam and Jim. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they were just like looking at each other. Like I think it was just like they made eyes at each other and that was it. And he responded back with something along the lines of like, oh my gosh, that's totally what I'm looking for in my relationship, whatever. Kind of like, and then he started talking about bridesmaids and how he's really just looking for like the version of like the two best friends in Bridesmaids. And I was like, I think if you're looking for a best friend, there's like Bumble BFF for that.
Yeah, wait a minute. What?
And,
He was looking for like Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph energy?
yeah, yeah. And I was like, what? And I was like, I think there's Bumble BFF for that. And then he told me later, he was like, oh, I definitely thought I blew that. Like I was like, okay, this girl's never gonna talk to me again. She's telling me to go on the friend app, like whatever. And I just was like, I'm just kidding. But like
Also,
that was
no.
he was like, oh, I just meant like a relationship where they're also best friends. And I'm like, sure, but why? I don't know why he went to the bridesmaid reference, but
Yeah.
that's where he went.
When you were dating, you mentioned you went on a couple of dates with guys who have kids, and your current partner has kids, had kids at the time, right? So
Yeah.
how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think our first fight, or maybe not fight, but tense moment was around he had two kids from a previous marriage. I knew that, like he had them on his profile that he had two kids. But again, I dated people like that before, so not a big deal. And
Yeah.
but he had on his profile, like on the kids section, have kids and don't want more.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I don't remember what I had. I think I had like open or something. And he, from like pretty much like date 2, started talking about how he is planning to have a vasectomy.
Oh,
So like before we ever like had any deep discussions about anything, was like, oh yeah, I'm making my appointment for my vasectomy, blah, blah, blah. I'm done with kids, whatever. And I was kind of like, how do you know how I feel about having kids? And he was like, well, I put on my profile, have kids and don't want more. So I figured
right.
that you wouldn't have like swiped on me if you wanted kids. I just assumed. And I was like, well, that's something you shouldn't assume. And I don't know why you never asked me and like whatever. So we had like a very tense moment about that, which tracks with just like how literally he took online dating. Because I was his first and only date online after trying it out after getting divorced. He took some time and then decided he was ready to try it. Only went on Bumble. So glad that I decided the random GIF generator was for me. And I think he said he was on it for like a week, got completely overwhelmed, paused it, came back and was like, I was very intentional about only swiping right on people that I really liked and like profiles and whatever, so I wouldn't get overwhelmed. And he's always like, what attracted you to my profile? Like what popped about me? And I'm like, he's like very thoughtful about all the things he liked about my profile. And I was like, I hadn't seen you before and you didn't look crazy.
Two very different approaches to online dating.
Yeah. But, you know, when you've been doing, I think he just like, when you haven't done it for years, like upwards of 10 plus years, you know, you get to the point where you're like, I think I've dated this guy before. Have I dated this guy before? I had a spreadsheet. I had a spreadsheet actually that I kept with my friends, especially in the DC area, because we would tend to accidentally date the same guys. With my sister too, before she met her husband, also online, we accidentally went, like, we were very similar. I mean, makes sense. We're 3 years apart. We look similar. We have similar interests. There were several times that we almost, and did, there were two guys that we went out with that were the same.
That happens in New York, and it's much larger than DC, so that makes
Yeah.
total sense to me.
So you get to a point where you're like, have I dated this guy before? Are they familiar? I don't know. Have I seen them on all the other apps? Like, you always worry that that's you too. You're like, are guys seeing me being like, ugh, that girl again? She's still on here?
Well,
Like,
I also remember having my like app regulars that I had never swiped right on. Like I wasn't interested in them, but I would see them often and be like, oh, he's back.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
I saw one of them on the street once.
Oh, yeah. I've seen a couple of them too. And you like do like that double take where you're like, yeah, we recognize each other.
Yeah, we're like, we know why. We know why.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you were like open to someone who had selected that they definitely didn't want more kids. Because like when I'm advising people, I would have advised you to swipe no on him if he absolutely didn't want to, and that was a deal breaker for you.
Yeah, I definitely think that I would swipe. Actually, now I don't even remember. I think I used to, when I was younger, when I was in my 20s or even early 30s, I probably did swipe left on the ones that said, don't have kids, don't want them. Because that just felt too definitive for where I was. I wanted someone who wasn't sure
Very
or
fair.
wanted them. And I don't know. I think because he said he had kids, like I figured I was like, he doesn't really mean that. Like, whatever. He has kids. So like it's not, of course he, like, I just didn't think it was that closed off. And
Turns out
apparently I was wrong and he was wrong. And we had a little awkward, our first awkward moment for there. But yeah, I was kind of like, well, I was 39 when we met. So I was like, you know, if I was going to want to have kids, it would have to happen pretty soon. I hadn't like done anything like freeze my eggs or anything. I just kind of was like, what the universe has happen is what's going to happen. I'm not going to try to force it one way or the other. And yeah, so I think by the time we met, I was pretty comfortable with the idea of not having kids. And my sister had kids, so I felt like I had, and they lived nearby. So I was like, I feel like I have what a little me would look like from my sister. Thank you, sister, for giving me like genetically what I can see what my kids would have looked like. So thanks.
Fun and energy.
Yeah.
So we could talk forever about kind of that experience of dating somebody with kids and kind of moving into that family dynamic. But
yeah,
what we're here to talk about more so, I think, is your relationship structure and kind of timeline.
Yeah.
One of the things that you'd mentioned to me when we chatted before this was about how you and him had very different ideas of what a relationship timeline might look like.
Yes.
And how did that come up, play out?
In every aspect of our relationship, we were on different pages. And I'm trying to think of all the different facets, but like on several different areas. But I think most notably was like when we would move in together. He was always on the timeline of like, we're waiting for everything. Like, it's going to be a while. He got out of like a 17-year relationship and marriage. That was his most significant relationship. I think he had dated like one other person for like a hot second in high school, but this was like his most serious relationship. They were together for 17 years. They had 2 kids together.
It's a long time.
Yeah. So after that, he was like, well, obviously, like, he obviously also wasn't planning on like getting into a serious relationship with the first woman that he actually went on a date with. And in the beginning, he kept being like, very much like, well, the chances of this working out are pretty low. So I'm just trying to like, enjoy the moment. I think it was just like it was his way of trying to be like, I'm trying to be in the moment and not worry about the future. Because if I worry about the future and what could happen, the odds are stacked against this relationship working out. He had read all the Reddit blogs of like divorced dads with kids going on in their 40s because he's a couple years older than me. And he was like, I was prepared to go through hell. Like from what I read online and what I've heard from friends, it was going to be terrible. He's like, so I just figured like, you're great. This is a great first relationship for me to see. You're normal. You're great. You're funny. Like, this is wonderful. But he had very low expectations for it working out. And honestly, I was kind of like, well, I don't know if this is going to work out either. Like, I've never dated anyone with kids. I don't know. So I guess I was just kind of like, but are you happy now? Like, I'm happy now. And he was like, yeah. And I remember actually early on, I think we had gone on maybe 2 dates. I'm not even sure. And I had a trip planned to San Francisco. And I told him, I was like, hey, like, I'm going to be away for a week. So if you want to, like, I totally understand. Because I felt like he would feel badly if he like went on another date while I was away. Like even though we hadn't done anything like defining the relationship, anything, just from the person he is, I felt like he would feel guilty. And so I was like, I want you to feel like you can go on other dates while I'm away. Like, don't feel like just because we've gone on 2 dates and it's going well that you should not go out with other people and like whatever. And he was like, no, I'm good.
I mean, he's never online dated before due to the 17-year relationship. Yeah. Like that wasn't a thing prior to that. So he's probably never even experienced like dating multiple people at the same time.
Oh yeah, no. And he was just like, it was so overwhelming. Like, why? He's like, I want to see where this goes. Like, I'm good.
Were you dating other people at that point or no?
Yes, I was dating one other guy who I didn't really like. That I was much more excited about my partner, like by far. From like the moment we like first started talking to like we had a video Zoom chat first at his request. It was 2021, so it was still he was trying to be very careful with like COVID, and he had kids and whatever. And he was like, "Oh, let's get on a quick Zoom call," and I was like, "Yay!" But sure.
I didn't like them either, so I'm with you.
But I was like, but I'll do it. Like I'm not. It's not a phobia to me. Where some people are like, ew, they want to do a phone or a Zoom date. They're out. I'm like, whatever, it's fine. But I was convinced that he was like obsessed with me from that Zoom date. Like I was like, oh, he likes me. And he's always like, yeah, you were fine. I was like, no, you really liked me. He's like, no, not yet. So, we like to have a little disagreement about that as well. But so yeah, I think the beginning of our relationship was baffling on both sides because he just kept being like, this is going really well. Like, this is special, right? Like, he'd ask me that a lot. He'd be like, do you feel this way at this point in your dating experience? Like, I don't know what else to compare it to. So I feel really good, but is this normal? Like, is this how people usually feel? And I was like, I mean, I don't. Like, usually, right. I'm like, it was just easy, right? Like, that was just like, even though a lot of things were hard because he had kids, he had elderly dogs that actually were more difficult to schedule around than his actual children.
Oh gosh.
So like, yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of hard things, but he very early in our relationship stated that he figured we would not move in together until we were together for 5 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, 5 years seems like a reasonable amount of time. And I was like, that feels very arbitrary to me. Like, can you tell me more? Yeah. And he just was like, well, I figure like 5 years is about the amount of time where you can be like relatively certain in an uncertain world that like things are going to work out. And I would hate for you to move in and not work out and for my kids to get attached. And I was like, so let me understand this. You think that your kids are not going to be attached to me until I move in.
For 5 years.
For 5 years.
Seeing me all the time.
Yeah. And he just was like, yeah, okay. it's just like, it was just like his gut reaction. And anytime we kind of would talk through it, he'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's reasonable. Got it. But his gut reaction to things was always kind of the opposite of mine, where I was like, what? And not that I was in a hurry to move in, but like I said, I'd only been in a relationship for a little over a year. I was going in it with the mindset of like, if I make it for more than a year with anyone, we're probably going to get married.
This is it.
So, yeah. So I was like, I would like to live with my partner before we get married. And like 5 years, like that is a long time. Like I was just like, if we make it to 5 years, like we're done. Like we're in it for life. Like I
Yeah.
just, yeah.
I wonder if there's something there too, to when he last made those decisions, he was very young.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, if I had met someone at 18, I sure as hell wouldn't be moving in with them until at least 23.
Yeah.
So then
Totally.
5 years would be like, yeah, okay. But at 38,
Yeah.
or when I met Skyline 37, like, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it was just very weird that we weren't on that same path, but like our pre meeting each other lives were so different.
Yeah.
So different. I mean, he had been a stay at home dad, and then COVID happened. So he continued to be a stay at home dad. So I think it was like 8 or 9 years that he had been at home.
So how did you work through those conversations of being so far apart in what your kind of hopes or expectations were?
Yeah. To his credit, anytime we kind of like talked through things, he was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Everything you're saying makes perfect sense.
Well, I'm so happy that he was open to those conversations and not just kind of like dogmatic in, his way of thinking, which it sounds like kind of came from some maybe preconceived notions or perhaps out of nowhere. Like, I'm glad he was open to that with you and had worked on some of that with himself.
Yeah. And he was very open about that communication was not good. And he was not used to just sharing his feelings when he had them, because he had to kind of carefully time it for when it was like, convenient to have feelings. And I am the opposite of that. And so I think that was probably, I was like, I literally can't move on if we have something. I'm like, I have to talk things through like right away. I am not someone that can just like pretend everything is normal and just be like, oh, okay, I'm really mad at you right now, but let's like hang out and watch TV and like eat dinner and like hang out
Nope.
with friends and everything's great. I cannot do it.
Nope, nope,
It
nope.
is a strength and a weakness. In this case, he's like, oh, that's so amazing. I always know how you feel. I always know like where I am with you. And I was like, yeah. And if I'm mad at you, you will know, because I cannot hold it in.
Yeah.
And he was like, yep, nope, that's great. So that actually worked well for us, because he was like, that was the, part of the demise was that like we were being too considerate of each other and never actually told each other how we were feeling for fear of like, something else happening. So,
Right.
or it just not being a convenient time to share emotions, which I was like, every time is a convenient time to share emotions.
It's always convenient.
Yeah.
Well, I think the reality is it's never convenient, and that makes it always convenient.
Yes. And the extra part of having the kids and having to just like coexist and make sure that they are getting to what they need to do and putting your needs second after them.
Yeah.
Like it makes perfect sense why that would just continue
sure.
to like feed that pattern. So
Yeah.
So yeah, the 5-year thing I thought was hysterical, but we had that conversation very early on, and I was like, whatever. But then after our 1-year anniversary, actually it was on our 1-year anniversary. I remember we were at the beach. We were on a family trip with my parents, and we had like taken a walk, and we were talking about, okay, we've made it a year. Like, what do we think next? What is our goal for next year? Like, what do we think next year is going to look like in the next couple of years and whatever? And by that point, like, I was like, yep, this is it. Like, I knew all along. And it was really because of the absence of anything that I felt was insurmountable coming up. So it wasn't so much the like, oh, all these signs. It was more the lack of flags. Everything that came up, I was like, we can get through this.
It sounds like maybe a combo of nothing huge, major, terrible coming up, and also it being somebody that you wanted to work through things with.
Yes.
That's awesome.
and who wanted to work through it with me too, right? Because I
So
have
true.
also had relationships where they're like, they're like, oh, this isn't going to work because I had someone once that was like, you don't like road trips. And I love road trips. And like, you don't like going to the movies. And I love going to the movies. So like, this will never work. And I was like,
Oh,
wow, okay. I was like, it's true that those two things are not my favorite things, but maybe I was too like black and white about the fact that I like would never do them. I was like, it's not like I won't do them, but like it wasn't even like he would have the conversation with me. He just had made up his mind that like I am not the person for him because I will not have road trips. And I was like, you know what? If that is your idea of an ideal vacation, then you are right. We are not compatible. But I feel like
yeah.
with my partner, like he was always like curious and willing to talk through things. And so I never felt like there was a conversation where I mean, it would take a couple of days sometimes, but I never felt like there was a conversation where like we could not find some kind of common ground or understanding.
Yeah.
So yeah, so on our 1 year anniversary, he was like, so what do you think about when we would move in? I was like, haha, are you still on your 5 year plan or whatever? 4 more years to go. And he was like, well, yeah. And I was like,
Uh,
wait, what? Really?
Wait, huh?
Yeah. And he's like, well, what's your timeline for moving in? And I was like, I don't know, maybe like another year and a half. Like we'll have been together 2.5 years. Like that feels like a long time. That will be by far my longest relationship. Like, why wouldn't we move in by then? It just in my head was like, we're going to be both in our 40s and we're going to not live together. And we've been together for 2.5 years. Like, that just seems crazy. And I was also like, again, I would like to live with someone before we get engaged, married,
Right.
whatever. We agreed that he also wanted to get married again. So, like, we both knew that's what we wanted. But he just, the timelines for that were just so far off, and he kind of froze. And I remember that next day being very awkward because he kind of like shut down. I think he was in panic mode. That was what I just like threw out there. I guess the same way he throws out 5 years, I was like, I don't know, another year and a half. Like, it was not based on anything besides like it just feels right.
Yeah.
So I
Which,
guess I
yeah.
did exactly what he does.
Good point. Fair. Yeah.
Yep, yep. But yeah, and then we kind of started talking through things. And, at the time, he was still trying to figure out what he wanted to do post like stay at home dad COVID world. He
Mhm.
was wanting to start his own business. And he was like, I would want to make sure that financially we were in a good place before you moved in. And like, I would need like a year heads up or something so that I can like make sure that I got a job that paid a consistent salary, could see whether or not this like my own business is taking off and whether it's something that I could figure out like how to live on. I don't know. He was just in the beginning phases of this like starting his own business. So I think in his head he was like, I am nowhere near ready. And like
Yeah.
if you tell me a year and a half, that doesn't give me a lot of time to try this like own business thing. So once we talked through that, I was like, oh, okay, like fine. That's not a problem. And so I was like, I don't really have a huge like opinion on when. I just think down the line, I think I will feel more strongly about living together when we've been together for so long. But like right now, I'm fine. I have no interest in moving in right now. And he was like, either do I. And we were kind of like, all right, let's just see how we feel in another 6 months, a year. We'll just keep talking about it. And I think that was really like the key to our success was that we were kept being like, we have to stop worrying about the future and just be like, are we happy now? Is what we're doing working for us right now?
Yeah.
Even though we're worried about like down the line, moving in, getting married, all the things like I would have to move. I walk to work right now, like moving in with him, which is, he has a house. I have a 1 bedroom apartment. Like I would obviously be moving in with him. So, you know, that was a lot of change for me too. So I was like, I'm not ready to do that. I'm just saying hypothetically in a year or so, like, I don't know. Um, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you were both aligned on kind of your ideal destination. Like you had aligned, okay, he wants to get married again, you want to be married, like we want to stay together, we want to do these things, and like
Yeah.
how we're going to do that and exactly when we're going to figure out together, which is beautiful.
Yes. And in December of 2023, so we had been dating for just over 2 years.
Mhm.
And I was like, so 2024, the year we get engaged. sometime in 2024, I want to get engaged. I don't care when, but I'm telling you by like this time next year, I would like to be engaged. And we can be engaged for as long as we want, but I want to be engaged. I want that next step, symbol, sign of commitment. And
And
his initial response was like, kind of like, wow, I feel like you're giving me an ultimatum. And I said, I'm not giving you an ultimatum. I'm telling you what my expectations are and what will make me happy. Because we had several conversations around his biggest fear was that I was going to not communicate something about, what I wanted or what I needed to be happy in the relationship. And I was just going to like pull the rug out from under him and just like break up with him out of nowhere. Because that's kind of what happened to him with his divorce, came out of nowhere, did not see it coming. And so his biggest fear was that even though we communicate so much, but there's still that scar tissue of like, this is what happened to me before. And I understand because I had a similar thing.
yeah.
And he was like, that is my biggest fear. And I was like, right. So you've always told me that your biggest fear is that I am not going to tell you like how I'm feeling or what a deal breaker is or like, what would make me happy. And I'm telling you with a year notice, 1 year notice that I would like to be engaged sometime in the next year, because that is what for me would make me feel solid and appreciated. And like we are both on the same page about the level of commitment we have in our relationship. And his response was, how about if we just decide when we're going to get engaged in 2024? And maybe it's in like February of 2025. And I was like, nope, you have a year.
How in your mind do you delineate between that and what he's saying of like, you're giving me an ultimatum? Because
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I think there's a fine line.
Oh yeah. And I agree. And when he said that, I was like, oh God, oh no. Am I being like too bossy? Am I having too many expectations? Am I like, why do I really feel so strongly about this?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes back to that shared kind of curiosity and questioning of each other when we say something that the other one is just kind of like, wait, what? It'll just be more like, tell me more about that. Tell me
Yeah.
more why you're thinking that way. Tell me more why 5 years feels like the right amount of time. Or he's like, tell me why 2024 feels like the year that you need to be engaged. And yeah, so I think I was like, I don't want it to feel like an ultimatum, but here's how I'm feeling. And I just told him, I was like, this is a long relationship for me. I want a symbol. I don't want anything else to change. But like, I'm going to be in my early 40s and like, we're in a relationship and I want to be able to like, stop being like my boyfriend. Like, I was like, I want to be able to be like, this is my partner. I want it to be clear to everybody that we are on the same page. And also for myself, like it is a symbol
Yeah.
to me. I knew that he would not do it unless he knew that we were going to be together longer term. I was like, I want the physical, traditional commitment that symbolizes that we are together. Like this is it. And he was like, that's totally fair. Like, I get it.
I'm glad you got to a place of talking to him about the emotion driving it and like what the need is, because
Yeah.
I think like the word ultimatum is sort of like semantical in a way of like, technically, is that what it is? Maybe, but I think there's a difference between talking about here's how I'm feeling and here's what would make me feel secure, and then
Yes.
just saying like, you better do this or I'm going to break up with you.
Exactly. Yes. And also because the other thing that would be more of like that next step would be moving in together. And the more and more we talked about it, neither of us was excited about moving in. Even at that point where I'd said like I thought I would be ready by that point. And I was like, I still don't really want to live together. And he was like, me either. And we're like, we're good. But I was like, okay, so what is the next step that shows and like moves things along in this relationship where we feel like we are moving forward? What are the other things we can do to commit to each other in that way? And yeah, and living together just was just continued to be not appealing to either of us. He was like, I've never not lived with anyone else. I mean, obviously his kids are there, but he's like,
Yeah.
I get to rearrange the house how I want. I get to make whatever I want for meals. I get to make the rules. I get to like buy the stuff that I want to put in the house. And I'm like, yeah. And I get to have my quiet space in my own apartment where I can walk to work and like,
Yeah.
and I don't drive. And I'm like, I'm right in the city. I can take the metro. I can walk everywhere. I have my independence. And I don't have to live in a house with three messy boys. Like he has two boys who are like pre-teen age. And I was like, why would anyone want to move in with them right now? He's like, I don't even want to live with them right now. So I get it. Like, yeah, no, not appealing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm curious about your thought process in sort of evaluating your own feelings changing, because earlier in the conversation, we were talking about how when you first started dating, you wanted to live together before getting married. Like
Yeah.
living together was something you saw. And potentially by now, because of the, 2 years, 2.5 years thing.
Yeah.
How did you work through your own changing feelings about it and sort of like pushing against this idea that you weren't being influenced by what he wanted, but it was actually what you wanted too?
Yeah. Therapy.
Yeah, word.
Therapy, talking to him about it. And honestly, I am still to this day, I'm like so thankful that we were on the same page about things, because if he had given me a similar ultimatum, quote unquote, or similar, if he had it felt differently about living together, if he had been like, you know what, I really think I do want us to live together before we get engaged, because I feel like that's like the final step of like incorporating you into my life with my kids. And you're not just like you come around and you're like the fun aunt who like zooms in and out on the weekends and like brings dessert when you come over for dinner. Like, then that's what I need. And that would have been completely rational and like completely normal and valid if he had told me that. And I don't know what I would have done. Like, I actually am feeling like anxious just thinking about the fact that he could have, or still could say that to me now, even though we're engaged. We had our commitment ceremony, all the things. So I think it was just continuing to talk through things and basically agreeing on the big stuff, which was like, we want to stay together. We want to show that we are more committed than just like boyfriend, girlfriend. But we don't want to live together. But we want to build a life. And what that looks like is something that we're curating. So like, I have family dinner with them once a week. On Wednesdays, we go over there. I have dinner. With them, we play games. On the weekends, like when he has them, we have like activities. Like we've gone on vacations together with the four of us. That was actually probably one of the biggest kind of like, oh, wow, like I am playing like a stepmom role, because I really don't with these kids. Like they have their own mom. They do not need me as a mother figure. Like that is not what they need in their life. And I'm used to being the fun aunt, because that's what I am to my sister's kids who are about the same age. And so everywhere we've gone, everything we've done has always just been like, oh, Allison's coming and she's going to like be here to add to the fun of whatever we're doing. Right. But the first time we took a trip together, which is actually right before we got engaged, we went out to LA together to go to Universal Studios because they wanted to go to like the Mario land out there or whatever. And so we went out there, and I did kind of get surprisingly anxious before we went, because I realized I was like, oh, this is the first time where we're going where like to the outside world, I am the mother.
Yeah,
like,
you're a family unit.
We are a family unit, and like we're going to go places and people are going to be like, oh, listen to your mom and dad, or like, do you want to sit with mom or dad, or like whatever. And we had not really been in that situation yet where it was going to be assumed.
Right.
And so I did get anxious about that. And we talked about it. And I also was worried that I was going to feel left out, because like they love their dad, which like he is an amazing dad. And we were going to a theme park, and theme parks are not my thing. I could care less about Super Mario. So part of me was like, why am I even going on this trip? Like the boys don't care if I'm there. I'm sure like he cares if I'm there. It would be a much more fun trip. But I'm like, but would it be like, or would it just be better for you to like go on the rides with your kids and like do this and like you're going to be running off going on roller coasters without me, and I'm going to be like sitting there holding all the water bottles and like waiting for you. And is that really, should I just not go? Um, and I remember having that conversation. I think, yeah, I think he was like, well, I want you to come. And it ended up being totally fine. It was fun. I picked the restaurant, so that was like my job on the trip. It was like Allison picks the restaurants, like she picks the fun ones, whatever. And there were a couple of rides that were like too scary for one of the kids, and he's like, I'll just stay with Allison, you guys can go and Allison and I will hang out here. And I was like,
I'm going to keep her company.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to wait with Allison because I think she won't like this ride. And I was like, oh, thanks.
Did you get pushback or like feedback from people around you about the sort of non-traditional path that y'all did take and still are taking in not living together and
yeah,
all of that?
Oh yeah. Especially around like we had the traditional engagement, right? We got engaged. And when we first got engaged and before I said, I was like, I don't really want anything to change. I just want to be engaged. But then after we got engaged, I was like, well, I want some kind of celebration. So let's have an engagement party. Because we weren't planning on getting like legally married for a variety of reasons for a while. But I was like, I still want to celebrate this commitment while we can. And I want people to come and all these things. And so my biggest mistake is that I did bad marketing for it. And when I first got engaged, I told my family and friends that we were going to have a fake wedding. And that was very confusing to people.
That does sound a little confusing.
A little confusing. And really, at the end of the day, what we had was a non-legal wedding. I wore a wedding dress. I walked down an aisle.
But I think a commitment ceremony is a great way to put it, like you mentioned before.
It just took a little bit of, and it took a while for my partner to also get on the same page on what we wanted. Because at first, when I was calling it like an engagement party, he was like, well, I don't know if my friends are going to come. Or my brother or my sister are going to fly into DC for this. And I was like, well, why not? And he's like, I don't know, because I've already had a wedding. Like, they're not going to just like, they don't need to come in for like an engagement party. And I was like, okay, that was my signal of like, okay, then this is not, we're not on the same page about what this is. If you don't think this is a significant enough thing for your brother and sister to come, then we need to reimagine this. And so we kind of made our own ceremony where we told a lot of stories, told our first dating story, talked about a bunch of things, had people speak. Like basically how I described it to him was like, I want it to be like what a rehearsal dinner would be. Like people stand up, tell stories, but I want to walk down an aisle. So there was no like, there was no exchanging of rings. There was no like, I now pronounce you. It was just like, here we are celebrating our love and commitment. Here's some stories. Here's our story. Let's have brunch. And that's what we did. So, and it ended up being amazing. But it was definitely confusing. And it was probably the most confusing part in it was the cherry on top of an already confusing non-traditional relationship path for me, my family, and my friends, because I actually, and I don't have any friends who were in the same situation as me. I didn't know anybody who was in a significant relationship with someone who already had kids from a previous marriage. Yeah. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to about this. And my partner didn't know anyone who was divorced. All of his friends, both of our parents, like, he was like, we are the first ones in our families to get divorced. All of my friends are still together. Like, and then when he got divorced, people started coming out of the woodwork and we're like, so what's it like? How's that divorce thing working out for you? You're happy? Yeah, you seem really happy in this like other relationship. Is it good? Like, are you happy you did this? Like,
they're like asking about life on the other side.
Yeah, 100%. So it was so funny. So yeah, all along the way, there were lots of questions. And I think especially, obviously my family and friends were looking out for my best interests. So
of course,
they knew that wanted to be in like a long-term relationship, ideally get married eventually. They knew that like I wanted to live with someone. And so when I changed my mind on that, or that became less important, yeah, I think people definitely questioned. And also just kind of like they're like, are you getting enough out of this for yourself where you are not compromising all the time? Because it's like,
Right.
you have to work around the kid's schedule. You're the one, like, he's starting his own business and kind of like figuring things out. Like, and you're kind of waiting for him to figure out what he wants to do next. Like, are these things that, are you making too many sacrifices? And he would worry about that too, back to his like biggest fear, which was that like one day I was just going to get fed up and jump ship. Right. But really, because of how we both felt about how our relationship was going, that's really what was the most important thing, was that we kept talking and checking in on things. And when things were not going well, or when I was upset with things, like, hey, can you please like talk to me about it before you commit to Christmas and like holidays or whatever, so that we could at least decide together if we're going to spend this holiday apart or together. And maybe we'll decide that we don't want to spend it together, but I would like to make that decision together instead of just being informed afterwards what the plan is and being kind of an afterthought.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
And I think the biggest thing was, that changing my perspective on living together before we like get engaged or get committed, as we call it, we're committed, became less and less important to me. Like, I just was like, that is not something that I thought I would want it, but I don't. And we still joke, we're like, well, when the youngest kid is 18 and moves out, guess that's when we'll figure out if we want to move together, like live together. I mean, even now, like on weekends where, he doesn't have the kids or whatever, everyone's like, oh, so do you just like sleep over each other's houses when when he doesn't have the kids? And I'm like, no, we still go to our own homes. Like, I don't know. We both are just like, I'd rather be in my own house and sleep well. And like, he's an early morning person. I like to sleep late. And he's like, what am I going to do in your apartment while you're sleeping? It's like I feel like half the day is like wasted. And I'm like, yeah. And you go to bed at 10 p.m. and I want to like watch my shows and like do my thing. And like, I want to be in my own space and I want to have my cat and like all the things. And I mean, we are very lucky. I want to acknowledge that, like, we are very fortunate that we can afford our lifestyles living apart. Like, I know for a lot of people, that's not an option. Like, you need to live together in order to like make things work. And we're very lucky that we both are able to do our independent thing. And that is not a factor. Like, the money issue of like, oh no, we can't afford to live in two different places.
Yeah.
For us, very luckily, is like, has not been a factor. So yeah, I think it just took some time. And I think a lot of my friends now who have been married and have kids and are like, oh my God, I would die to have my own house. Like, I want my own room. I want my own house. And that's another thing. We have already agreed that when we do eventually live together, like, we will have our own rooms. Like,
I love that.
I actually don't know any couples. I've literally been trying to think about this. I was having a conversation about this at brunch this weekend. I don't know any couples that are on the same, like, both night owls, both morning people. Like, I don't know any couples where like they are both the same. And so like every couple that I know is like, oh, it's so annoying. Like, he always goes to bed later and I want to go to bed and he wakes me up, or they snore, or like they get up really early and it wakes me up, and they set the 5 alarms and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, like, we both are just like, yeah, we like to do our own thing. And like, and on vacation is different because you're in vacation mode and like,
of course,
whatever. But like on a daily basis, we're like, it's just more, I guess we're just set in our ways. And like, we're like, all right, see you tomorrow. Like, this was fun. Bye.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that I am an extremely heavy sleeper. Like, it does not faze me at all. Skyline could be like, I don't need, like, fully, like, he has fully shaved his head with an electric razor in a bathroom that is like 4 to 5 feet from me. And I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, you're in bed. Like, he's like, yeah, you're just like a mummy for 12 hours.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, we're not on the same schedule. So if that were not the case, it would be very annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story. I just love so much how you've designed your relationship together. Like you said it before, you are co-creating this relationship rather than sort of defaulting into one, especially when that means pushing against things that you yourself thought you might want.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, sometimes it's just easier. People are like, oh, you got married. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I
Yeah.
did. Like, close enough. Like, good enough. Or like people are like, oh, like when are you moving in? And we're just like, oh yeah, we're not right now. And there's like, oh, okay. I feel like it's like all those like pleasantry questions that like most people
Hmm.
don't care. They just like don't know what else to say. And so they say all the inappropriate things of like, oh, you just got married. Are you going to have kids? Or like when you had a kid already, you're going to have your second kid? Or like you've been
Yep.
dating for 3 years now. When are you getting engaged? When are you living together? It's like all those things that you just kind of, I don't know, have to learn to not let bother you. I guess
Yeah.
that, I mean, it still bothers me sometimes. And sometimes I'm still like, ugh, yeah, I don't feel like explaining the intricacies of my relationship. And
Totally.
again, the cool thing has been that most times when I'm like, oh yeah, we like, had our commitment ceremony, but we're still going to live apart because we both like our own places. And they're like, that is amazing. I am so jealous. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Not going to lie. Like, I love it.
It's incredible. And so I think that is the message that when you wrote in, like that is the overall message that I was hoping that this episode would bring, which it absolutely did, is that like your relationship can look like whatever you want it to. Well, hopefully whatever you and your partner would like it to.
Yeah.
And I think all of what you talked about in terms of like getting on the same page when you started out not, I think is so much harder than just, oh, it's so convenient. We already agreed on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, lots of things. Like, even though, yeah, the kids thing, like, I was pretty sure I didn't want it, but I didn't like the idea that he was, just like assuming that it was a done deal, that we wouldn't have them, yeah, living together, holidays, um, yeah, all kinds of things have definitely been things for us to work through together.
Hmm. Yeah, which is that's the goal, right? And I think for anybody listening, I think something that came up for me a lot when you were talking about your story is the word you used was curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think looking for someone and hopefully being someone who is generally curious about things that they don't understand
Yes.
is so paramount.
Yes. And it's still a muscle that I have to like practice too, of like not
Totally.
just assuming certain things. And we have both have had to do that, right? It's like, oh, well, like you don't want to live together. That must mean like you're not committed to me. Or like,
Right.
you don't think a year is enough time to like decide that you're ready to get engaged. Like, what else do you need? Like, and instead of just being like, okay, what would you need in order to feel comfortable? And it turned out to be the thing that ended up being that made him comfortable is he's like, I want to share all our finances. I want it to
Oh.
be completely open. I want you to understand like where I'm coming from and how much I think this business is going to cost, and like where I think I'm going to be in like a couple of years, and where I would want to be before we moved in, so that I was comfortable that I could cover my own expenses with my kids and not feel like you needed to pay for things. I
Mhm.
want us to like understand where we are with our savings, with everything. Like, and after we did that, he was like, okay, I'm actually good. And I was like, that was it?
That was it?
That was it? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I just wanted it to be out in the open. Like, I wanted you to understand where I was coming in from. And he's like, I didn't want you to feel like you were going to have to compensate for the things that I wanted to do in my life. And a lot of that
Mhm.
was starting his own business and having the time to do that. And the agreement that if we were starting to change our minds, that we would know that we need like a year on ramp for that, to be like, you know what, I'm starting to feel like maybe the next couple of years I want to live together, so that he could be like, okay, let me see where I am right now with this business. Do I see this as something that can like get me to where I want to be by this time next year? Or do I need to figure out another job? He was a teacher before this. Do I need to go back to teaching? Do I need to do
Yeah.
something else so that I am in a place where I don't feel like I'm dependent on you? You don't feel like you are like having to pay for my stuff if we want to go on a vacation together, and like I'm not making an income because I'm trying to start this business. So that was like I didn't realize how huge of a thing that was for him, because it honestly was not that big of a thing for me. But I think because it wasn't something that had been an issue to that point. But I didn't realize that was so much of his anxiety, was like he wanted to have this freedom and time to try out different things, but he didn't want that to be a burden on our relationship and our ability to still do fun things and take trips and whatever. So,
Well, I'm glad that you were able to get that clarity with him and that you both came to it with that openness of like, let's talk about what's important to each other. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your whole story. I really appreciate it. And I think people are going to really enjoy it.
awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. More
Yeah.
people
And
can do it too.
yeah, seriously. Yeah. More people. Absolutely. Design your relationships, right? Versus just like we talk about that relationship escalator all the time. It's like
Yeah.
if you want those next things, amazing.
Yeah.
But like thinking about whether you do, I think is so important.
Yeah. It's like I want the traditional engagement ring, and I want to wear the traditional wedding dress, and then everything else, whatever.
Well, I love it. Thank you again, Allison. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And to the rest of the listeners, I will talk to you next week.